President Shu, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Ingenious You community today.
Thank you, Melissa. Good to meet you, and it's an honor to be here with you today.
Well, one of the things that our listeners are always eager to know about is the backstory of our guests. And so I would love it if you could start us off by telling us something about your journey and how did you wind up in the office of the president?
Sure. So I probably have a very unusual background among university presidents. I actually was not born in this country. I was born in China and actually grew up during a very chaotic period of time known as the Cultural Revolution, where when my elementary education were interrupted repeatedly. So I really did not have a very formal K-12 education. I was one of the few that were fortunate enough to leave the country right after the Cultural Revolution and came to the U.S. As one of the first study abroad students, and I studied aeronautic engineering, and then after that joined industry, and I thought I was going to be just an industry researcher, but after 10 years in industry, I found that my passion was really in education and in higher education. So I finally transitioned into full-time teaching at the University of Miami. And then I guess after that, it was just rising through the faculty ranks and then stumble into higher education administration accidentally and ended up where I am now.
The accidental president.
Yes.
Although I think your leadership is anything but accidental from what I know about your accomplishments. So thank you for sharing that. Now, for those of you those in our audience who aren't familiar with the College of Charleston, can you give us a high-level overview about the institution, any points of pride, things that set it apart?
Sure. So the College of Charleston was one of the oldest universities in the country. We were founded in 1770, and we are the oldest university in South Carolina and the 13th oldest university in the country. And of course, as its name indicates, it's located in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. And we had been voted as one of the most beautiful campuses in the country. We have now a student population just shy of 12,000, both undergraduate and all levels of graduate programs. Our programs are rooted in the liberal arts tradition. So we were founded as a liberal arts college, but now we're a very comprehensive university with very strong programs in the professional programs like business, education, health sciences, engineering, and so forth. So, but still what sets apart is an extraordinary liberal arts education in an extraordinary location.
Yeah, I've been on your campus a couple of times. I can fully understand how you have been rated the most beautiful campus. It's a wonderful place.
We're very fortunate.
Yeah. So now, as you know, there's been a lot written recently in particular about how challenging the role of the college president has become. And we just have seen this play out in the last several days with the Senate hearings and what has happened with the UPenn president and the firestorm. So I think that has really brought to the public view just how challenging these positions are. And yet you've been quoted as talking about how much you enjoy the role. And so I would love to hear a little bit more about what you think about this. What is it about the role that is challenging? And where do you find the joy in the role?
Sure, that's a great question. I guess very topical because everybody is talking about this wherever you go. I think being a college president is certainly very demanding. You're like a parent, or in my case, a grandparent, most likely, a principal or a headmaster. I'm certainly the CEO of this very large company. And also sometimes I feel like I'm the mayor of a small city because we also have, housing, police, and all of that. So prioritizing some of these differences, these different roles can be hard and challenging. But in addition to that, there are many challenges depending on the institution. It could be enrollment, it could be financial stability, it could be student success. But by far, I think, as you alluded to, the most challenging piece is the political atmosphere. It is the polarization of our country. I feel that sometimes university presidents are unfairly called upon to make a statement on every situation, whether or not they belong to higher education or whether or not they have, the presidents themselves have any knowledge or expertise on those topics. However, I think what has made it enjoyable to me is that I have the chance to work with thousands of students who are indeed the future of this nation, and I get to see they make progress, see them grow from a young adolescent to an adult as when they graduate. I also found joy in working with a really strong leadership team around me that is able to elevate the College of Charleston onto the national stage and continue to make huge progresses. And these are all measurable progresses, and we're making them every day. So having grown up in a time and at a place that had little hope, that people were desperate, and I see opportunities always around me in this country. And I think right here, right now, despite the current rhetoric, the difficulties, this is still the most amazing place in the world. So my positive approach is really that, as long as smart people willing to work together, we can always find a solution. And that solution may not be perfect, but it is usually moving things in the right direction. And that is what I love so much about the university culture and what I love so much about being a president.
So well said, and much needed for all of us today to have that kind of perspective front and center. Let me ask you a little bit more about your background. As you mentioned, your PhD in aerospace engineering and your industry experience with organizations like Rolls-Royce and NASA are really unique in higher ed leadership. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about how this experience has influenced your approach to university leadership and how it might inform the way you think about higher education.
Sure. I often joke that when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you. And when you're an engineer, everything looks like an engineering problem waiting to be solved. So I tend to approach things as a problem solver. But I think my experience in private industry sort of gave me some very unique perspectives. One example is that I think private industry really helped to set my internal timetable or even my internal clock. Higher education, on the other hand, is by design to move and adapt very, very slowly. It's probably the slowest moving kind of organization in the world. So while I believe in measured responses, in shared governance in higher education and all of that, but I also believe that higher education must keep up with the pace of the very rapid change or changes in our society, or else we will become less relevant or even irrelevant very quickly if we don't keep up with the pace of change. I believe that a university education needs to be relevant to the real world, whether that is for a student seeking a career in business or hoping to continue into graduate work or even be an artist and whatever is the career that the student is trying to pursue. Our classes need to prepare them for success once they have that diploma in hand.
Boy, again, very, very well said. Now, obviously, you're doing something right there at the College of Charleston. You're bucking the trends in contrast to the experience of so many of your competitors. You have just enrolled, I think I've understood this correctly, your largest first-year class in the 3 most recent years. So how have you done this? What's the secret sauce?
Well, the secret sauce really is to do something different, right? People say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. As you mentioned, we more than doubled our number of applicants to this university, and we're probably going to triple that in the next year or two. And we basically did all of that by making changes in almost everything that we do, and especially in the student enrollment and recruitment area. So, for example, since I came here, we moved very quickly to Common App. We piloted test optional strategies. We increased our budget for marketing, and we became more strategic with where to place our admissions counselors, and we also became more strategic as to which market is our niche. So we probably did at least half a dozen to a dozen different things to change the way we address our enrollment issues. And by the way, our enrollment had been going down for at least 5 to 7 years prior to my arrival on this campus, and we were able to turn that around by basically making rapid changes. And this is why I think changes are so important. So obviously it also helps that we're in a location that is a very desirable location in the country these days. It's not only just a top tourist destination, but people are just moving here because they like the living environment here in Charleston, South Carolina. We have the best of all possible worlds: culture, history, great weather, beautiful beaches. But more importantly, I think it's because Charleston now is also a high-tech manufacturing center. We have now worldwide household brands like Boeing, Volvo, Mercedes, Bosch, all of them located here in this city. And all of these different things, I think, work together that not only brought us a lot of students that are interested in coming here, but also helped us attract some of the best faculty in the country so that the students who do come to us, now leave with a world-class education.
Mm. So it sounds like you did a lot of different things, but all at the same time.
All at the same time. In fact, all within probably a 2-3 months period of time during the summer of 2019 when I first came.
So as the engineer president, were you able, or have you been able to unpack all the things you did to say, this is the most important thing we did? Or is it truly a matter of everything working together is what got you to where you are?
Yeah, I think, I did, as an engineer, you always want to find, what helped, what percentage. But in this case, I think because in recruitment, high school graduates, it's such a huge market. I can't say that any single one of those had made the difference. But what I can say is that all of those worked together to cause the changes that we're seeing. I don't think any single one of those would have caused this kind of change. For example, there are some national studies that says if you join Common App, you typically would see maybe 5, at most 7% increase in the number of applicants, and clearly that cannot explain the more than doubling of the number of applicants, right? So I'll have to say that it's the shotgun approach that really worked, but every single BB probably worked their magic.
Yeah. No, I'm an old enrollment person, and I subscribe to the approach that you have followed. And sometimes it's in that mix, and you can't always account for what the what the influence of each of those things is, but it's something in the mix of everything that gives you the results.
Right.
Now, you've also been setting records in philanthropy, which is interesting. And so what was your strategy in that area?
Indeed, we're very proud of our record in philanthropy. In fact, of the last 4 years, we set, I think, 4 or at least 3 new records in our school's history in terms of philanthropy. I'm afraid, again, I'll have to say it's making changes, but it's a bit of everything, to be honest. First, we hired a new leader in that area, and I think certainly leadership does matter. We have done a lot of work to incorporate best practices of fundraising, using a variety of strategies to connect with our alum and a large donor pool, including using the most up-to-date technology, software, AI, and so forth in our work. Ultimately, fundraising is all about people. It's friends raising. So really, it's just going out and willing to talk to every single person who potentially is willing to help the university. It's building that personal relationships with alumni, friends, parents of our students, and so forth. I think it also is because we're now clearly a university on the rise. You know how people, I think especially donors, they want to not only pick an area that is their own passion, but they want to pick a winner. They don't, if you just have your hands out saying, we're so poor, so give us some money, I don't think that's the right approach. Our approach is to demonstrate that we're a university on the rise. We're in an important moment of, acceleration, moving up into a higher and higher orbit, pardon me using an aerospace analogy. But we are moving up and moving up rapidly and accelerating at the same time. And with every area of our campus doing incredible work to enhance the educational experience for our students. I think that had attracted a lot of people who want to join the excitement and help us maintain and build up that exciting momentum.
It's quite a story, isn't it?
Yeah. We're very proud of what we're doing here.
Now you must spend a good amount of your time fundraising, or at least interacting with certain donors as the chief leader of the institution, I would imagine.
I do indeed. Sometimes fundraising is not just to sit down with someone and say, here's a project, I need $5 million. Sometimes it's just going to the basketball game and talking to the alums there, or hosting a large alumni events and make sure that everybody's engaged with their alma mater. It's visiting DC and New York City and meeting with all the parents and tell them about the university. So it's like I said, it's just working with people.
Yeah. So now I understand you've created a new senior level position. I don't know how new this is, but I've read about the Senior VP for Innovation and Industry Engagement, which is a great sounding position. So what kind of person did you hire to occupy the position, and what's the strategy for innovation and industry engagement at the College of Charleston?
Yes, so this is very interesting. The position is still somewhat new. It's less than 2 years old, but coming to the College of Charleston, knowing that we have such important industry companies that are our local employers, I've always had in mind that industry and business engagement and partnership is important. In fact, it's in our strategic plan that we have engagement as one of the important strategies. But how we found Mr. Knut Floor, our Senior VP for Innovation and Industry Engagement, is a very interesting story. I went to a retirement party at BMW North America, and their CEO was retiring, and it turned out to be this gentleman, German gentleman by the name Knut Floor. And so he and I were chatting. We didn't know each other, and he had never heard of the College of Charleston. But we started talking about higher education, and he started to complain about how universities is not meeting the needs of private industry and so forth. So I said, you look still very young. Why don't you join my team and help me change all those things that you think we're not doing right? So he has been leading our efforts ever since to engage industry partners in new ways. Especially as it relates to high-tech digital manufacturing. These partnerships, I think, will definitely help both our students in their practical education and finding a great job after graduation, but more importantly, it will help South Carolina to become a more attractive state for industry to relocate, and it will also assist local industry in their workforce needs.
It's a great position. I love the story. It's a great illustration of how wonderful opportunities can come from unexpected conversations or just showing up somewhere, and then inspiration strikes, and you were open to it. obviously.
Yeah, that was totally unexpected. In fact, quite honestly, I didn't want to go at the beginning, and I had to be persuaded that it's a worthwhile trip.
Yeah, well, it was. Now, did he say yes right away, or did it take some convincing?
To go to the
No,
retirement party.
no, your new senior VP. Did he say yes right away when you asked him, or did you
Oh
have
no,
to?
it took me a couple of months to convince
Okay.
him. I think he retired back in October, and we kept on talking, and by January, I think he's convinced that there's a lot of new things we can do, very innovative things that we can do together.
Yeah. Well, you would be a hard person to say no to. I have a feeling. So if
Well,
you were,
I'm very persistent, if nothing
yeah,
else.
yeah, and that's 9/10 of the battle, I think. So um now let me switch gears here. I want to ask you, I mean, I don't have to tell you about how challenging the higher education landscape has become for so many institutions. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on what you think are the primary challenges, but also the biggest opportunities facing the College of Charleston. So, as you know, even though things may be going really well and going upward, you can never take that for granted. So, um, how do you think about sustaining that momentum? And what are the things that you worry about, challenges or things that may keep you awake at night?
So I think overall, as an industry, higher education, the challenges that we're facing, I think there are two at least in the near future and in the next 5-10 years. One is the public perception of higher education, and the other is something known as the demographic cliff. That is, 2008, we had fewer babies and we had fewer babies born since then. So there's going to be a decline, a significant decline after 2026 in college going age students or population, right? So but I think the College of Charleston obviously is not going to be immune to all of those challenges. I would say that one of the most pressing issues is to remind families that a college degree is still the best way for social mobility. Many pundits would tell you that there's no need anymore for a college degree, and many families now start to question the need for a college degree in order to get a job. But I think a college education prepares a student for a career and prepares them for the future. It's future proving them so that the world is changing so rapidly. Every year there are new professions that had never existed before appearing. So we just need to have a well-rounded college education for the students for the graduates so that they can cope with this rapidly changing world. Of course, there are many other challenges, the growing mental health crisis exacerbated by the pandemic, the challenge of having artificial intelligence such as ChatGPT and its possible impact on what we teach, how we teach, and what we learn and how we learn and things like that. As well as the rising cost of running a university. This high inflation does not just affect the average household. It certainly impacted how the university operates significantly. And how do we keep a college education within reach for as many students as possible? Those are some of the major challenges. But I think also these challenges can become opportunities, right? So, for example, with these new technologies such as artificial intelligence and so forth, it's an opportunity for universities to innovate in how they teach and what they teach. And I think, again, our society, our world is changing rapidly, and if we don't change with it, then we're going to be left behind. And this is the opportunity for us to all start looking critically about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can change in order to adapt.
Yeah, indeed. So as I listen to you, it's very apparent that you have a very strategic mind, that you're very intentional in how you approach things. And so it would be interesting, I think, for our listeners to hear a little bit more about how it is that you know where to focus your time and attention as president. So, for example, when you first arrived at the College of Charleston, this was your first presidency. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct. Yes.
So with so many things that were on your agenda, so many competing demands, how did you know where to dig in and begin to focus? Do you have any guidance for other leaders?
Yes. So that's a very interesting question, and in fact, one that I often think about myself, and I think I attribute most of my success to my 1 year of ACE fellowship that I spent with President E. Gordon Gee, who at the time was the president of the Ohio State University, and I spent an entire year there. And I still remember clearly that one day we were walking across the oval on the Ohio State campus, and I asked him, what is your secret of success? By then he had worked over 30 some years as a university president, and led several very distinguished universities like Ohio State, Vanderbilt, and Brown, and so forth. So he gave me a very simple formula that I followed ever since. So he said, well, Andrew, it's very simple, right? One, you need to develop and articulate a very clear vision for the university, which to me is you have to have a plan. In our case, it's a strategic plan. And second, you have to build a high-performing and very effective leadership team. You must hire people that are smarter than you, and you must build this very effective team. And the third one, he said, well, you essentially, as the president, serves as a symbol. You need to be visible. You need to be visible among students, among faculty and staff, among alumni, within your community. You have to be visible because you are the university. So I, somehow that casual conversation in like 5 minutes walk across the campus just stuck with me. And I have been following that formula ever since. So when I came here, very first thing was develop a strategic plan, a vision and a plan for the university. And my leadership team was built over the last 4 years. And I finally can say that I have a very high-performing, very effective leadership team. And I would like to think that I'm very visible in our community. So I think those three things really helped me lead this university in a more effective way.
Yeah, well, no doubt. And one looks at the performance, and and this is not a question I gave you ahead of time, but it does lead me to want to to want to ask, what's next? You know, you've achieved so many things. Is there something still out there that you're hoping to tackle or achieve in the next few years?
Yes, so my goal is to move this university into the onto the national stage as one of the most innovative universities in the country, right? As I mentioned repeatedly, the world is changing. Higher education must change at a more rapid pace. So the goals that we have is that most innovative university, and I think the world is no longer constrained by specialization. In fact, our student no longer need the type of education that we offer 50 years ago, which we essentially are still offering as of today. So what our students needs are a wider range of skills, especially as automation, artificial intelligence transform our society. I think we need to incorporate more what I would call fusion degrees, where we would blend the academic disciplines together in new ways, so that the students are able to explore a wider variety of fields, but also with certain depth, and how help them become more versatile and well-rounded graduates. A fusion degree might be combining the traditional English major with a software engineering major, or a philosophy major with an environmental studies major, or a German language major with a business degree. It can be any combinations of things that we currently offer, or any number of disciplines, not just binary. So, of course, students can now get double majors, or even some of our students get triple majors, and with multiple minors and so forth. But I think a fusion degree would allow more students to reap the benefits and graduate within the 4-year time period and make them stand out in the job market and in society. So I think those are some of the innovative things that we hope to do, and many of those things we hope to do in collaboration with our industry partners.
That's very exciting. You know, if you consider the complexity of the problems our society is facing, that kind of preparation is exactly what is needed for students, right? To be able to address these problems from multiple perspectives and in an integrated way. So that is very exciting.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have one more question. This is a signature question we ask of every guest on Ingenious You. And here it is. If you could leave one transformative idea or a piece of advice that would shape the future of higher education, what would it be and why?
So I would probably repeat myself. I think higher education need to rethink what we offer and how we're offering it, and offer more innovative ways for students to study, and offer break down the discipline boundaries, and have students be more versatile and well-rounded.
Thank you so very much, President Hsu. I can hardly wait for our listeners to learn more about you and all the wonderful things your institution is doing. So thank you again for your time and for your willingness to share your story with us.
Thank you, Melissa. It's been such an honor.